Hanging out in my room. It's about 9:30 in the evening, 9:45 in the evening, and I got everything done that I got to get done for the day. And today, I realized something kind of interesting. Well, I think it's interesting. It's I don't know. I just this is my first time really thinking about it, and I got this $50 bill right here, and this whole thing, I realized this today, but I was actually I was getting ready to hop on the bulldozer yesterday. I was thinking about this, and I've actually come to the realization that as of right now, $50 an hour. So this is what I've come to realize. This is something that I've just come to realize is that there, as of today, there are things that if I pay somebody $50 an hour, there are things that I should just there's about 50 to 100 hours, let's just say 75 hours, 70 hours a year worth of labor, worth of work, about 70 hours a year. And there's about 70 hours a year worth of stuff that when I think about it, it would actually be in my best interest. As of now, it would be in my best interest to just pay somebody else to do it. Because I would end up making more money. And it's not like 70 hours a week. It's like 70 hours a year. It's probably about 70 hours a year. I was like, it's just over 50. Let's just call it 70 to make the numbers easy. And at $50 an hour, that's $3,500 a year. And here's the thing: is I got my check. Oh, I didn't get my check, but I called the sale barn about my check, and I asked them about my check, and they said they're gonna resend it to me. It'll probably be here by tomorrow. And I made a $9,054, and so I made $9,054 on my check, and I was sitting there and I was thinking about this, and I haven't ever come to this idea before until today. But there's about maybe about 70 hours worth of labor a year, about 70 hours worth of labor a year that I would actually make more money if I paid somebody $50 an hour, which would be about $3,500 a year. I would actually make more money if I paid somebody else to do it. And if I just went and worked on my cattle business, I would actually end up making more money. It's not, and a very realistic example of this is the bulldozer. If I just pay somebody $50 an hour, I thought about it and I was like, $50 an hour is like the most reasonable wage to pay somebody nowadays in terms of just in terms of it just being enough money to, and I really thought about this, and I was like, you know what, a lot of people, a lot of people have zero idea what it's like to be, a top point 0.000000001%. A lot of people don't know what it's like. And if I pay somebody $50 an hour, my whole thing is that I don't save people, right? I don't save people. I don't even think about the possibility of saving people. If you legitimately think that you can save people, you're either very naive or you're a moron, all right? You're either very stupid or you're naive. At the end of the day, if the person does not want to be saved, there is no saving that person, okay? If that person is not going to go and, do better for themselves and put in the effort to do better, there's no saving that person. It's not possible. It's just not possible. You can do anything. You can sacrifice yourself on the cross, and the idiots will still be idiots, all right? I mean, there's nothing that can be done about it, all right? And I would highly encourage people to go out and save yourselves, all right? Go out and put in effort to do better for yourself. There are things that you can do in the world that are, morally justified, and you can make money doing it as well, okay? If you really think about it, if we took all the money away from the world, a very realistic outcome would be that a lot of people would die, all right? A lot of people would die, and mass majority of people would die, all right? It wouldn't be some it wouldn't be some small number of people that died. It would be a massive number of people that died. Even 100 years ago, there were a lot of babies dying, all right? there have been a lot of improvements, all right, and we should continue to improve, all right. You know, there are asteroids floating around in space that are filled with minerals and fresh water and all sorts of resources, and we could become interplanetary species, and we could do all of these great things. All right, there's no reason to there's no reason to be a moron. All right, there's no reason to be a moron. There's a lot of things that need to get done. There are a lot of things that can happen for humanity that would be morally good, and at the end of the day, you can also make money doing it. All right, it just is what it is. And my whole thing about it is that if I paid somebody $50 an hour, and I paid for whatever 70 hours a year, that's $3,500 a year. And some things that I can realistically do are things like pay somebody to drive a bulldozer for me, 40 hours a year or whatever, and I can pay somebody to haul cattle for me, right? I can pay somebody to haul cattle for me if I paid $50 an hour, and let's say I give whatever, so it'd be $250 for 5 hours, and I give them another $250 for equipment costs and gasoline. That'd be very fair. For 5 hours of labor, they made $500, but $250 was an expense, and they made $250. And if I hired somebody to haul cattle for me, all right, then I could, while they're hauling my cattle away, I could be at a sale barn buying more cattle, right? I mean, when if I get somebody to drive the bulldozer for me, then I could go and vaccinate some of the calves that I have, do a health checkup on the calves that I have, make sure everybody's doing okay, feed the animals, do stuff like that. I can actually make more money by and I figured that it's about 70 hours a year, and I figured I could pay about $50 an hour, and it would also give people a realistic, somewhat, it would give an idea. It would show people, it would give people a realistic idea, just a glimpse of what it looks like, right? I do very well for myself. I make a large amount of money. I'm set to do very well for myself. Granted that I don't, I'm set to do very well for myself, and if anything changes, I will say so. But as of right now, I am set to do very well for myself. And that's the idea of the $50 an hour. $50 an hour. $50 an hour, 40 hours a week. That's $2,000 a month, which translates to about $8,400, or that's about $2,000 a week, which translates into about $8,250, $8,250 a month. And that's about what you need to be middle class, right? That's about what you need to be middle class. After it's all said and done, you make however much you make. And, $8,250 a month is a very reasonable wage. All right. $8,250 a month is a very reasonable wage. And I'm not going to offer that to somebody all year round. I can realistically offer it to somebody 70, maybe even up to 100 hours a year. But, and it would realistically give people an opportunity to take to just, take, have a glimpse of just what it looks like. Because a lot of people, when it comes to the stuff that I do, when it comes to like the the way that I do things and how I do things, a lot of people, it'll be the first time that you have ever, and that includes anybody, it will be the first time that anybody has ever seen anybody do anything like this, right? I mean, in terms of the line of work that I'm in terms of the work that I do, I don't know anybody else that does this business. I don't know anybody else in this business. A lot of people, they don't know that they don't know that you could take a raw piece of land and turn it into a cattle farm. A lot of people don't know that, and how to run a business. And a lot of people, almost, just to put things in perspective, even me, I haven't seen anybody do 10%, and I haven't seen anybody do 10%. All right, of what I ultimately do. All right, I haven't seen anybody do 10%. And I'm not saying that to brag about it. I'm not saying that to anything about it. I'm just in terms of like a legitimately running a cattle business. I don't know anybody that even does 10%. I don't know anybody that does 10%. I do very well for myself. I would reasonably anticipate that I have about 60 cattle here within about 3 or 4 months. And once I hit 60 cattle, that will put me in a situation where I am liquidating 10 animals every single month. And if I liquidate 10 animals every month, I will have to buy 20 animals every single month. And if I have to buy 20 animals every single month, I won't have any space to precondition them in. So I'll have to look into building bigger facilities, or realistically, what's going to end up happening. Well, I think that realistically, I think that I can precondition 20 animals a month. I can probably precondition but I realistically, how I'm gonna do it is I am going to within about 3 or 4 months, I will probably end up in a situation where I am just flat out left with about I am flat out just left with about five, maybe like a five, thousand cash that I won't be able to reinvest. All right, I won't be able to reinvest it. And in terms of the total situation of things, I'll be selling 10 animals, buying 20, and so I will increase the size of my herd by 10 animals, and I will still have about $5,000 cash left over every single month. And when that happens, I will look into drilling myself a well. I will get myself a well. From my understanding, it's about $9 a foot to drill a well, and so I think I have to go about 350 feet. I think I have to go about 300 feet to hit water where I'm at, and so that'd be about $2,700. It'd be about $3,500. But right now, there's no reason for me to drill a well. I got pond water, and the pond water is going to be clean. It's plenty clean. As long as it rains, it'll be plenty clean. I'm not worried about it. And realistically, the fields will only have like 10, 15 animals on each field, so there's going to be plenty of clean water. I'm not worried about the water going bad. And so, but realistically here within about 3 or 4 months, I'll look into drilling a well. And if I drill a well, I can precondition more calves because I'll have access to more clean water. And realistically, I could probably precondition about, here's the thing. If I precondition 40 animals at a time, if I precondition 40 animals at a time, let's say that I precondition 50 animals at a time. And let's say that I raise my animals from 200 pounds to let's say 800 pounds, and let's say that takes me that takes me 8 months. All right, if that takes me 8 months, and I'm preconditioning 40 cattle at a time, if I'm preconditioning let's say 50 cattle at a time, and if I'm preconditioning 50 cattle at a time, and I'm selling them every 8 months, that would be 400 cattle. All right, that would be 400 cattle if I am preconditioning 50 cattle. If I precondition 50 cattle at a time, and so I won't need any bigger facilities than that for at least the next year and a half. If I precondition 50 cattle at a time, let's say I precondition 20 here, and then I drill a well and I build a new preconditioning facility on one of the lease properties. I just build a very simple one with just some. I can even just use adjustable panels. I can just use panels and use a couple of big trees in the area and just build just put up a couple of panels around a big tree, and the trees will give the animal shade. And I could drill the well next to the preconditioning pen, and whatever it may be, but if I precondition 50 cattle at a time and I run them for 8 months, and I do that on a rotation, that would be me running 400 cattle at a time. I would be running 400 cattle at a time, and so I don't need any bigger facilities than that as of right now. And that would put me that would give me that would put me in a good situation. I may even end up being able to reinvest all of my money, all the money that I make in terms of my capital. But in all honesty, if I'm going to take leverage against my capital, which I would prefer to do, I like to take leverage against my capital. There's no reason for me not to, because, if I invest my money, it's like putting my money in a savings account, right? As long as I knowledgeably understand my investment, the investment is worth money, all right? The investment is worth cash. It's not like it's not like I bought anything, all right? I traded the money for something that is equally as valuable as the money. That's what I did. And so the whole thing is, like, if I have money invested, if I have 120 cattle worth of my own money, realistically, here within about 9 months, within about 9 months, I will realistically have, within about 8 or 9 months, I will realistically have about 100 or 120 cattle. And when that happens, let's say that I have 90 cattle worth of equity. Let's say that I have 80 cattle, 90 cattle worth of equity. It would just be in my best interest. Let's say I have whatever, 70 cattle worth of equity. It would be, let's say I have 90 cattle worth of equity. If I have 90 cattle worth of equity, it would just be in my best interest to just leverage against it. All right, because those 90 cattle, if I have 120 cattle and 90 of those cattle belong to me, first of all, those 120 cattle are going to be worth more than, they're going to be worth more money. I will have bought 120 cattle, but as I raise the animals, they will go up in value. And so, if I just leverage against my equity portion of the deal and I buy smaller animals than I have, and I buy number 1 to 1.5 type medium large frame beef animals. If I do that, then it's whatever, right? It doesn't matter. You know, it's just me leveraging against my money, and so it doesn't matter. And at the end of the day, if I legitimately needed to pay the bank back, if I sold my 90 animals that I leveraged against, let's say that I leveraged against 90 animals, and the 90 animals that I leveraged against, I had bought them at 250 pounds, and I raised them to 400 pounds. And then I decided to leverage against them, and when I leveraged against them, I went and bought myself another 90 250 pound animals, and all of these animals were 1 to 1.5 type medium large frame. If the bank called me tomorrow and said, hey, you have to pay your 90 animals worth of money back, if I sold my 90 400 pound cattle, or realistically they'd be about 450, right? It'd be, granted that the bank didn't call me immediately and ask for the money. Let's say they called me the next month and said that I have to pay my money back or whatever, which they don't, all right? But if they did, then I wouldn't even have to worry about it, because if I sold my 90 animals, first of all, I could pay the bank back all of their money, and I would still probably have made a 25, a 20% return. On top of that, I would have positive equity, so it wouldn't even matter, right? It doesn't matter, all right? I would prefer to leverage against my money, all right? I prefer to leverage against my money. The reason that I leverage against my money is because it raises my income by increasing the number of animals that I appreciate at the same time. And at the end of the day, I get tax benefits for it too, all right? But ultimately, it's to raise my income. It's to make my business do better, all right? That's why I leverage against my money. And the way that I see it, it's like if I have money in cattle and the money is stable and it's going up in value and it's already gone up in value, then it's like having money in a savings account, right? I mean, it's positive equity. It's my money. It doesn't matter, all right? Granted that I understand what I'm doing. I'm not just throwing myself into the wind and going on a magical journey, all right? Granted that I understand what I'm doing and I'm knowledgeably doing these things, then, I can effectively, it doesn't matter. I leverage against my money, and then I'm more or less good to go. And I sat here and I thought about this. This is something that I thought about today. I've never come to this conclusion before until now. But I have come to the conclusion. I have come to the understanding that if I pay someone $50 an hour, I can give them a reasonable wage. All right, I'm not going to go out of my way to save anybody. I'm not saving anybody by giving them $50 an hour for 70 hours a year. I'm not saving anybody by paying for somebody $50 an hour for 100 hours a year. I'm not saving anybody doing that. But I am giving a reasonable wage. And, at the end of the day, it gives people an opportunity, to see what it's like. All right. A lot of people have no idea what it's like. A lot of people have no idea what it's like to even, they don't know what it's like to be, in the very, very, very like top 0.000000001 percentile of the U.S. economy. But a lot of people just don't know what that's like. And a lot of people have never seen it before. People just don't understand, and it gives people a reasonable opportunity to take a look and see it. I would reasonably anticipate that over the next 3 or 4 months, I end up with about 60 cattle, and here within about 8 or 9 months, I will realistically have about 120 cattle, and that will be entirely my own money. I will have 100 to 120 cattle worth of my own money, and sometime between now and then, I would reasonably anticipate that I leverage against my money. All right, I would reasonably anticipate that I leverage against the I would leverage against my money. All right, I will leverage against it at some point, and but I will have about 100 to 120 cattle. And that will be entirely my money. All right, the net evaluation of the animals will probably be around somewhere around 200 grand. And if I take another loan for about another 200 grand, from the bank, and I run the animals, I would reasonably anticipate that sometime next year I will probably end up very close to about 1 million liquid. I will probably have $1 million just liquid money. As of right now, well, if I put it all together, because the whole thing about liquid money and the whole idea of liquid money is it's kind of just whatever, because it's like when we're talking about liquid money, I have things that are worth money that are not worth money. And if we're going to talk about these things, then, realistically, I would have to talk about liquidating everything that I have. I would have to talk about, I would have to discuss the idea of selling everything that I have. And then I would have, all cash, right? And I've talked about this whole idea of all cash. It's, having a, just, this whole idea of, oh my God, if you don't have cash, then you don't have money. It's kind of a ridiculous idea, because I have things that are worth cash that I don't have as cash, right? I have things that are worth cash that are not cash. Like I could sell my land, right? I could sell my cattle. I could sell my equipment, right? I mean, I have things that are worth money, right? And they're not cash, right? I could pawn my guns. I mean, I have things that are worth cash that are not cash. And, if we're going to talk about my cash position, right? I mean, because my whole situation with money is that I pay myself whatever I need. I pay myself whatever I need, all right? In terms of a monthly basis, I pay myself whatever I need. There's no reason for me to think about, having massive excesses of cash. It's not going to do anything. All right, like if we're talking about me talking about my cash position, I mean, are we talking about, how much money would I have? How much cash would I have if I sold everything that I have that's worth money? But if we're going to talk, why would I do that, right? Why would I do that? That's a ridiculous idea. It's borderline idiotic. All right, and realistically, if we're going to talk about like my, net positive cash position, I will probably go over $1 million liquid within 10 months. Within 9 months, I will have over $1 million liquid, and within 10 months, I will have over $1 million liquid. All right, it might even be I would say 10 months is a very reasonable estimate. It might be sooner than that. If I get there sooner than that, I will let you know. 10 months is a very reasonable estimate. It might even be sooner than that. All right, it might be sooner than that. Here in about 2 weeks, I'll be liquidating another set of cattle. I'll start reinvesting all of my money. I'll distribute my animals out to the different fields, and I'll precondition another set of animals. And but that's the whole thing. I will probably end up in a situation where I have but if setting up another preconditioning pen would be a good idea. And but the thing about using trees as cover is that it's not exactly an ideal situation. All right, using trees for cover is not an ideal situation. You really want some kind of a structure like a barn. And but I'll take a look into it. I'll consider the idea, and I may end up I'll consider the idea. I will consider the idea. But if I can if I can precondition 50 animals at a time, and I raise the animals for 8 months, 8 months at a time. If I raise the animals for 8 months, and during those 8 months I take an animal from 200 pounds to 800, 850 pounds, maybe even 900 pounds, to let's just say 850 pounds, and I precondition 50 calves at a time, then I can realistically, that would be like me running 400 cattle a year. Or excuse me, 400 cattle at a time. And it would be like me running about 600 cattle a year. And my whole thing is that I'm really looking to hit about 1,000. And so for me to get to 1,000, I will have to find more land. I will probably have to find more land, and that's something that I'll work on. I'm sure I'll find more land sometime between now and the middle of next year or something like that. Very realistically, by about the middle of next year, I'll probably have by the middle of next year, I'll probably have somewhere around 200 cattle. And so, and right now I got about, right now I cleared up another 30 acres. Realistically, I have about 200, 250 acres that are good to go, ready to be farmed right this moment. And so, by the middle of next year, I'll have about 200 cattle, 250 cattle, something like that. And, I would realistically anticipate that over the next month, or excuse me, over the next 8 months or so, I will be over $1 million liquid. And I'll effectively realistically I already make enough money to do whatever. All right, it doesn't really even matter. It doesn't matter in terms of money. More money's not really going to do anything for me. I'm not going to say more money's not going to do anything, because more money will grow the size of my business. And my whole thing about my business is that I didn't sell my soul to the devil for money. The cattle business provides a challenge for me. It gives me something to do when I wake up in the morning, and it gives me something to do until I fall asleep at night. So, I didn't sell my soul to the devil for money. If we don't farm, I mean, people are going to starve on a massive scale. All right, this is not a joke. All right, this is not some funny thing. All right, people are going to starve if we don't have farmers, okay? And so, I'm okay with it. I made my peace with God about it. I don't, it is what it is. And, realistically, by about the middle of next year, which would be about 10 months, in about 10 months, I will probably have somewhere around 200, 250 cattle. It may be more than that, and I will be over $1 million liquid money. I will have over $1 million liquid money, and in terms of the total amount of assets that I have, I mean, I also have my business and everything, and so realistically, it doesn't. I may even get there sooner. I may even get over $1 million liquid in less than it might not even take me 8 months. I don't know exactly, but I will be pushing my business forward. I got a lot of land cleared up. I got to fix up some fence, and then I have to fix up some fence, and then I've got to fertilize some grass, and then I got to herbicide things, and then I will be taking the cattle out to the properties starting here maybe in about 3 weeks. I will distribute the cattle out to the different properties. I will sell my biggest steers, and then I will take the money and I will reinvest that back into my business, and I will grow the size of my herd. Realistically, here in about 3 months, I will have about 60 animals. All right. It'll probably take me about 3 months, and I will have about 60 animals. And then, at that point, I'll be selling 10 every month, and then, I'll be having to buy 20. And when I do that, I will be growing my herd by 10 animals every month. And even though I grow my herd by 10 animals every month, I will still have 50 cattle at home. Okay, if I have 60 animals and I sell 10 a month, and I make enough money to buy 20. All 20 of those cattle are my money, right? They're entirely my money. I didn't use any leverage. I, took my money and I just reinvested it. So I have 20 animals worth of money that I put back into my business. And I also have 50 cattle still at home. Those 50 cattle will probably have all more or less gone up in value. And I will still have $5,000 cash left over, something like that. All right. So, I mean, realistically, we're talking about, in about 3 months, I would probably anticipate that I am making 20 cattle, and then 50 cattle that have gone up in value by 1 month. That's probably another. I don't even know. Realistically, I'll probably be making. I'll probably be doing something. I'll probably go just over. I'll probably be about 50. So 20 animals, right? 20 animals. Let's just say 1,000 a piece. So that's 20 grand. And then I got 50 cattle. And if I'm selling 10 every month, I got 10 animals that are 1 month away from being sold. So they've just about doubled in value. And then you just step it all the way down. So let's say it's a 50% increase. So 25 animals worth of money. Let's say, so that's another, 20, 25 grand. So 25 grand plus, 20 grand plus 20 grand plus. I'll be making, my cattle business will be making about $45,000 a month within about 3 months. And at that point, I will look into expanding my preconditioning side of things. And if I can, maybe I even precondition 20 at a time. And if I can do that, that would, step things up a little bit faster for me too. And so, yeah, I would anticipate that within about 3 months, my business is making about $45,000 a month, and my income, the amount of money that I'm making, will actually go up very quickly. All right, I would anticipate that by about March of next year, I will be making somewhere around $80,000 a month. That will be the amount of money that it just is what it is. I have money in the herds. I'll have money in the equity of the animals. I'll be bringing home a check, and I will have cash reserves. Realistically, I would like to sell all not sell all the cash. I would like to reinvest all the cash reserves, and in all honesty, it might even be more than that, because if I leverage against, like, let's say I sell 20 animals and I make enough money to buy 40, and instead of buying 40, I buy 60. That will increase that will increase the number of animals that I am preconditioning at the same time. That will increase the number of animals that I am raising at the same time, and so that will actually raise my income even more. And I'm not exactly, but if I were to just reinvest the money that I make and put only the money that I make back into my business, I would realistically anticipate that I would make about $80,000 a month within about 8 months. All right, I will make about $80,000 a month within 8 months. Realistically, it will be higher than that, because I will also take leverage.